Welcome back to another episode of Comeback Stories. Darren Waller here, my man Donny STARKINS to my left. We have an incredible guest here with us today. Guy that's played 16 years in the NFL. I was blessed to be a part of two of those as his teammate. Surefire Hall of Famer when it's his time. 5 Pro Bowls, 3-time All-Pro, 1,000 catches, almost 15,000 yards receiving. Steve Smith Sr., the one and only, man. Welcome.
What's up, man? How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. It's really exciting to have you here, man. I knew from the jump, like when making a guest list, that I would love to have you on. So it's exciting to have you here today, man.
Yeah, that's cool. You know, everything you're doing and how you're doing it. You know, so it's an honor. You know, when a lot of people don't know it, but if you are one of the guys that I consider a friend or I trust, you can always call me. So anytime you need something from me, my answer is always I got you. So,
I appreciate you, man. To just give some people some context, coming into the NFL, I played in the triple option offense in college, and it wasn't really like it wasn't exciting at all. And I didn't really have any real like greatness in front of me to look around to on a day-to-day basis. And I got to the Ravens, and just being around you, I was just like, it was a wake-up call for what greatness looked like, and like in an intensity of that kind of level and just that level of focus and the competitive nature. Like, you were the one that woke me up, and I was like, oh, okay, that's what greatness looks like. Like, if I'm going to do it, somehow I got to be on the path that this dude is on. So I had to acknowledge you for that, for setting that path and setting that standard for me. And now I'm one of the guys on my team that kind of sets the standard, and you are a guy that I constantly think of as far as setting an example for me. So I appreciate that, man. Sorry for getting
I
sentimental out of the
appreciate
gate.
it. Man, I just like watching you play, dog. I mean, just seeing everything. Um, I think my wife, they're going to tennis, so I had to say hello. Got it. Doesn't matter what I'm doing, you always got to acknowledge the wife, the better half. So, man, it's one of the things that's really cool about ball. But also, as I sit back and reflect, it's one of the things that you miss about ball is, those aha moments. And, there's a lot of aha moments with you, Darren. And I sit back and I watch you play. And, and I've always said this in every locker room I'm in, every receiver room I'm in, I care about when I'm sitting back, the story. When I'm sitting back at the house, when I'm retired, I want to make sure that when you catching passes, I don't say that I know that football player. I know that man, right? And I know that man you are. And I've always, for me, and you know what, I am who I am. He's who I be, whether you like me or not. But every locker room I'm in, every receiver's room I'm in, um, I probably should have did a better job. But man, I check guys' hearts, right? And I think that's extremely important because when you're checking a guy's heart, you know if you can count on him.
Right.
And I know this may come across the wrong way, but not every football player is great, and not every man in the locker room you could depend on them. You can't trust their heart. And so I'm just being 100, being real.
Yep.
Some people may be watching this now, and that's fine. They can say, who do you think you are, or who, what makes you special? God says each and every one of us is special. So I take that serious. And, as as I play, I always went forward as, when I trash you as a DB and when I take your professional soul, when you go up to meet the Lord, they're going to ask you who sent you. And I'm going to tell them Agent 89 sent you. That's just kind of how I go about it. That's how I played ball. I played for keeps.
That's what I love the most about you, man. Like, there's nobody like you. I think there never will be. And I love this. I think this is a great opportunity for people to see another side of you, the man in the uniform. And that's why I think this is going to be such a great conversation. So I want to start by diving into, what was life like growing up for you? Where did you grow up? What was your family situation like? What did your environment look like? Take us through your early life.
Man, I rep it. The only hats I ever wear.
Yep.
I got a dresser full of them. You never see me repping anything else but LA. because that's where I'm born and raised. That's where I'm from. That's who I am. That has shaped me and molded me. The unfortunate part about that shape and mold is I've become an adult, as I've become a father, as I've become an advocate in the community. I tell you, one of the biggest things that's difficult about growing up in the inner city of any city is when you are a young man, young woman, and lower income, you have to jump through so many more hoops to get by,
Mm.
and yet you lack the basic necessities and resources. And I think that's one of the extremely tough things about the inner city. And I see it here in Charlotte, where I do a lot of my business and also philanthropy, because I'm ingrained here. My family's here, my wife here, my kids. And so I think that's extremely important. I don't do a lot in LA because I don't live in LA. I can't be there. I can't touch it. I can't watch it. And so if I can't touch it and watch it, then that means it can't be something that's essential or something that I build into, because I don't want to be an absentee father, and I don't want to be an absentee philanthropist or business owner or entrepreneur. So that's why I do a lot here in Charlotte. But grew up in LA. Mom, she struggled, single mom. I saw my dad on the weekends. He did the best he could. My mom did the best he could. My grandma and grandpa leaned in and taught me, my aunts and uncles. My mom is one of 13. So between my grandfather and grandmother who had my mother, who my mother obviously had me, and then I had my kids, there are 65 of us kicking.
Whew.
And it's always a very entertaining family get together, because it starts off well, but somebody always does something to just make it go sideways.
No, I hear that. One thing that we like to talk about on here is I like to ask, like, what is there an early memory of pain from your
Oh
younger
yeah.
years that you can look to maybe put you into survival mode, or made you feel like you had to grow up faster, or it just changed the way that you looked at the world?
I mean, my mom was a single mom. I was a latchkey kid, so I had to grow up faster. Um, growing up in the inner city, around, I was born in '79. So with that, you have the crack epidemic. You have just all those things that you have to go through, that a young man shouldn't go through. You didn't have time to really to sit and be still, um, to just do the kid things. And so I make sure that my kids are allowed to be kids.
Mm.
Yeah, I made some mistakes, but just I don't think, by the time I was 7 or 8 years old, I was washing dishes. And I'm not killing them like you on the height department. So my mom got a stool. And you got to imagine that in the first or second grade, I'm washing dishes, right? I learned how to wash dishes by probably by the fifth grade. Man, I was able to cook, clean. I was mopping. I was doing a lot of things that a young man. Um, Now that I'm older, I understand it, but I wasn't allowed to be a kid.
Mm.
We didn't have the family structure to be a kid. I had to grow up fast.
I hear that. I know there's probably two sides to that, as not being able to enjoy the childhood joys, but on the other side of that, I feel like there's also like an instillment of a certain level of discipline that has carried you through your life, through your career, into your family today. Would you say that your mom was like the main teacher for you growing up? Who was the first teacher that you could look back to? Was it your mom, a relative, or a coach, or somebody like that?
I think everybody. I really believe everybody was a teacher. My mom taught me some things that I wish she didn't. My dad taught me some things I wish he didn't. The streets taught me some things I wish it didn't. Um, my grandfather taught me a lot. My grandpa taught me a lot. I lost my grandpa November 2008, 2007, and then I lost my grandmother um, coming up the Saturday before Father's Day. She died actually. Her heart stopped at 89 years old, and I was on my way to LA. Um, we were going to stop and see her as we were out there, and she passed. So there was a lot of people that I learned good, bad, and things I wish I wouldn't have learned.
Mm. Yeah, I feel like everything that we learn, everything that we experience serves a purpose. And I know that it served to help you progress your career, just progress as a man. Can you take us through what your
I,
early football journey was
I,
through?
I disagree with that a little bit.
Talk to me,
D.
man. Talk to me.
I don't think at 10 years old I should be have seen some of the stuff I've seen, and that didn't teach me anything but harden my heart, man.
Mm.
Like the first time, just being 100, talking to my dog, right?
Yep.
And Donnie, I'll let you be my dog for the day, all right? Um, the first time I ever wanted to kill somebody was probably about 8 or 9 years old, when it was my mom. She was dating a dude named Teddy. Teddy had a little bullshit ass Jerry curl. Y'all gonna have to edit that out because I'm not supposed to cuss. So
You can
you,
cuss.
Teddy
you,
had,
you be you, bro.
Yeah.
no, I'm not supposed to. Y'all gotta
Oh,
edit that out.
right. Protect Steve at all costs.
So Teddy had a Jerry curl, and Teddy was a crackhead, and Teddy got paid. Teddy did some things, and Teddy was not my father, and so my mom confronted him about some things, and he beat her up, and neighbors called the ambulance. And I just remember, my son is 7. My youngest right now, Deuce, is 7 years old. He'd be 8 July 2nd, and I cannot imagine his little heart having so much rage.
Mm.
That's not healthy. That shouldn't be the standard.
Mm.
And because I had some of that happen to me at such a young age, you know, the me mentally and physically in my brain and trying to create all those things that you are going through as a kid, formulating, how to love and how to process. Man, some of that got rewired at an age it shouldn't have been rewired.
Mm.
And that didn't help me. Man, it hurt me. It hurt me at times that even when I look back now, that when I look at my kids, to imagine what some of the things that I experienced at before the age of 12 or 13, man, it's tough.
I feel you on that. I appreciate you bringing that perspective too, because there are, I feel like there are certain things I've been through in my life that I feel like the perspective that I brought up works for me. But there are people, like you just said, that go through things that, they can't learn from. They just have to feel, and they have to carry with them, because at 10, you don't really know how to process it. Like you said, you don't know how to overcome it in a way, or to
It
let that
shouldn't
go.
be.
Yeah, exactly. I
You
appreciate.
should you like you shouldn't be at 10 years old processing grown folk stuff, right?
Facts.
You shouldn't. Like, on my podcast, and I want to have you on mine. One of the things that we talked about is I had a secret, man. I was sexually abused,
Mm.
and I held that secret till I was pretty much in my 30s, when I retired and started doing some counseling, and I realized that I was sexually abused. And basically, the story is my mom's friend, her good friend. She had a daughter and a son, and the son made me and his little sister have sex. I think I was in the 3rd grade,
Yeah.
and he watched us. And my counselor said, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, rewind." And we had to unpack that. He said, that's not normal. That's abuse.
Mm.
And the craziest part is, this is before cell phones, pagers. I was afraid every time the house phone rang. And look, I grew up straight. I grew up I grew up with a mother who was struggling. We was on Section 8. She did the best she could. I was with a mom who the bill collectors were always calling, so our phone was always ringing. And every time the phone rang, I thought it was such and such saying that this happened. Can you imagine? So think about it. Can you imagine every time your phone has a notification in today's age, like every time the house
Mm.
phone rang, to tense up like that?
Bro, you know that's how I felt in Baltimore the first few years that I was there, because I was failing almost every drug test, and I thought somebody anytime a coach called me, I was like that feeling that you just described is how I felt every time my phone lit up for 3 or 4 years.
3 or 4 years as an adult, a
Right.
young adult.
Right.
What is a third grader supposed to feel like?
Mm.
So by the time I was a fourth grader in elementary school, I learned how to hide secrets.
Mm.
Go ahead, Donnie. I see it. I see it
There's
all.
so
I see
much,
it
man.
right
Yeah, it's fascinating. Your
there.
story's fascinating. Just learning more about your story, it all makes sense to see how you fought on the field. I often hear people label it as a chip on your shoulder, but it's obviously something beyond a chip.
That's exactly.
Yeah,
It's
it's
like a chip.
way deeper than that. A chip is
Some people say it's a chip, man. Listen.
Hmm.
Here's my day today. I woke up this morning. First of all, me and my wife are totally opposite, right? And D knows this. I get up early, have my cup of coffee, right? So this is Steve Smith Sr., the infamous chip. Man, I'm up at. So first of all, my clock is 30 minutes ahead of my wife's. So I'm supposed to get up at 6:11. Right? I always use odd numbers. I don't know why. I'll figure it out later. 6:11. When I wake up, because my clock is 30 minutes fast, it's 5:38. So I get up, brush my teeth, I get dressed for my workout, and I'm sitting in the kids in my family room, watching a little sports, catching up on stuff, and folding clothes. I'm doing towels and underwears and socks. Fold that up. Then I have my cup of coffee. That's what, like, my little energy drink, just, a little cream, little sugar, drink it. And then I go upstairs and get on my Peloton and I'll do a ride. From that ride, I'll get up, take my dog for a walk, and I'll listen to an audio book or listen to some music, whatever I'm feeling that day, gospel, R&B, jazz, rap, some trap music, you name it. Then after that, I get showered and I start my day. I get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, fold clothes, whatever needs to be done, or, sit down and talk, journal. Bro, by 7 o'clock, I am ready to go. You talking about some people like, man, I wonder what's going on? Try me if you want to at 7 a.m.
I love that.
That's my day.
We always talk
And
about morning routines, man, and you got to the answer before we even asked the question, but it's part of the system, right? It's the foundation. I always say, win the morning, win the day, win the day, win the week. It's all about momentum. But even going back to your childhood, it's fascinating to hear more in depth. And thank you for sharing and being so real and raw about the sexual abuse. For me personally, there's nothing more fulfilling than sitting here with you and Darren and hearing three men talking about this stuff. Like, this is how we change the conversation and give people permission to do the same. Cause I always say we're only as sick as our secrets. So to be able to get it out there and really own the wound, and until you can really own the wound, only then can you write the ending of the story. Until you own it and you do some work and you work through it, that wound owns you. And they say 95% of our day is operated from our subconscious mind, which means 95% of our day is in our thinking. And then also going back from ages 0 to 7 is where all of our programming happens. So all of our programs, all of our stories. So basically our programs are running our subconscious. So, just to hear everything that you went through at such a young age, but then also to hear a shift in your perspective when you mention your family and you say they were doing the best they could, right? That's like, you're not the victim anymore. You're not holding resentments. You are seeing them as doing the best they could with what they had. And what that does is it frees us up from any kind of self-pity and victimization, which clearly is why you are inspiring others, being of service, and a man of faith like you are today. It's fascinating, man. I'm just grateful to have this conversation with you.
I appreciate it.
What would you say, what was the shift for you as far as, the other one thing I wanted to mention that you talked about in your childhood, that all of that helped you on the field, but that it really kind of jacked you up with the struggles off the field, right? I've heard you mention that before. So yeah, it allowed you to have that boulder, that chip, whatever you want to call it. But off the field is where you would struggle from all that, from the childhood wounds, basically.
Well, off the field, what it did is it closed me off, right? How I can look at a guy like Darren, love on him, and then come in the next day and I'll just be like, man, I don't feel like dealing with nobody today. Like I'm good. And people would say or like, man, Steve, what's wrong with Steve today? And it was just the emotional roller coaster, right? Not knowing why. And so today, as I sit in front of you via Zoom, the interesting part is I know who I am finally, and I'm comfortable who I am. I'm comfortable sitting in my messiness, but I'm also comfortable sitting. I know who I am. I know what I need, uh, and I'm okay with asking questions. And I have enough friends and allies in my life that they do affirm me, they ask the right questions, and they're helping me achieve, to get where I need to go to be a whole man, a whole husband, a whole father, a whole uncle, a whole nephew.
I I hear that, and it's like from young kids, especially kids that love football, it's like to know who we are as a man is not at the top of our priority list. We think that who we are as men has something to do with something that we can put into our bank account.
Yeah.
The stat line that I read off at the beginning of the intro of the show, just things like that. When it's like it has nothing to do with these transactional things or these things that we can touch. It's like it's what's inside of us, and I feel like that's why this is so important to shift the perspectives of young people, because it's like, what if a 10-year-old hears you saying this and they may be going through a similar situation or holding on to some of the pain that they hear? It's like, I feel like it's on us now as men that have succeeded in this platform and have seen some great things happen to be like, this ain't everything. Like it can still
Yeah.
be hard.
So what you're saying is what you're getting to, and I'll let you have it. Is we're talking about heart questions.
Mm.
We're talking from the heart, right? If you ask a man a heart question, ask a man how he knows. I still get teary eyed, man, of what when we did our sit down and hearing your father said that you'll always be my horse. Like when you ask men, what did your father, who is your father and what did your father show you? My follow up to that is, what did your father show you with his words, and also what did he show you with his actions, right?
My dad.
And that's, go ahead.
I was about to jump on it and answer. My dad, he showed me grace from the very beginning. Looking back, I didn't know what it was at the time. He was always like a voice of reason, and I was like, how is he so mild mannered when I'm, the principal is calling the house every week in middle school because I can't sit still in class. I've gotten arrested 3 times. I've gotten suspended at every single level of athletics I've ever participated in. But the whole time, he's like, I'm still in your corner. These are things that you can learn from. He's like, and he always talked about, getting caught on a humble, when it's like, I'm not dialed in. I'm not locked in and being disciplined and trying to, grow in my character. I'm just trying to, live life and do what everybody else is doing, but I can't do what everybody else is doing because I'm not everybody else. So he was guiding me along that path without kind of beating me over the head with a hammer, but still holding me to a high standard.
I tell you, one of the things that has really changed my perspective, and I read something that said this, and it's really made me think about how would have helped me, which is an unqualified compliment. Just sit with it for a little bit. Man, I only can speak for the way I grew up. Man, an unqualified compliment in my home would have never existed as a child, because that was not the standard set by my grandparents to tell my mom, so my mom didn't know how important that was. And the reason I know is because I'm just learning how important it is today. And what I mean by an unqualified compliment isn't about qualification or disqualification. It's about what it does and how it builds up. Because I never received or rarely received unqualified compliments, it hurt me to when I received a qualified compliment, I never stopped to acknowledge the compliment because I was always achieving and trying to reach for the next. So I never really saw and listened and thought about how beneficial unqualified compliments are when you're younger to when you become this adult, that you're able to receive them in a healthy way.
I heard you say also in your back in the day growing up in LA that you could never really relax, which again, I feel fascinating. It's fascinating to me to hear that because that's not how I grew up. It was pretty easy for me growing up. But just the fact that you couldn't relax, that you couldn't trust another guy, or like another guy comes into the locker room and you don't want to open up your heart to them, or be honest or acknowledge them. But I can just see how it can make us hard, right? We're trying to protect ourselves, but really our heart is closed. And if your heart's closed, you can't receive love. And if you can't receive love, you really can't give it back away.
Mm-hmm. You would like me to argue with you on
No.
that?
I was just touching on your point, but I feel like since this is comeback stories, what was the bottom? Like, what would you say was like your bottom?
I've been at the bottom a few times. Man, one of the things is I was at the bottom when I got to Baltimore emotionally. Just that you got to understand, and it's going to happen to you, Darren. Hopefully it won't. But at some point, if when a team decides that they don't want you, that process in which how you are handled in that process of being released, because what it says is you aren't good enough. You gotta remember, right. You get on the football field, everything about you, you're prepared for, you're ready for. Sometimes you can win, sometimes you can lose. But you're never really prepared to get released. You may, in the back of your mind, is the not for long league, right? Prove something every year. Guaranteed contracts can also be, they can cut you and still have to pay you like they did me in Carolina. But then now everybody wants to date you when you're married. Then when you're single, the numbers dwindle. So I had all these teams always wanting, man, we had a you. Steve, then I'm becoming a free agent. These 15 teams, it whittled down to 5, and only 3 gave numbers that were actually, contracts that was worth my time, right? Because the other ones were, well, we I've talked to him and I said I want him, so we got to give him a number. We know he, a 13-year vet who's, made a Pro Bowl a year and a half before, we offer him $1 million a year. Man, well, I'm not taking that, right? Right. And I'm not saying I'm not taking it because I expect more. That's just the market, right? Yeah. If you can want a Bentley, but Bentley doesn't have Honda prices, so that's unrealistic. And I'm not a Honda at that time.
Facts.
So, now I'm a Tesla. I don't need gas, right? So when I got released, it was a confirmation. See, you weren't good enough, Steve. You really actually aren't as good as they say.
And that's the greatest Carolina Panther ever saying that. So it's like, for somebody that's listening, I hear like, no matter what the achievements are, the same way you talked about the compliments, you want to get to the next one. Like the achievements, you want to get to the next achievement. And then it's like, when one thing happens, like 9 people could say amazing things about you, that 10th person says something negative, my mind is going straight to that 10th person.
I'm holding on to that. And you see me, I came into Baltimore, not even a man on a mission, but my care meter was at -10. Right. Mm-hmm. And so I was on that. I like to say, I mean, I was on that house money, right? When you on house money, you spending somebody, man, my kids do all the time. When you spending somebody else's money, whatever, right? It's like Amazon. You got Amazon, man. You just cart, and then ding dong, here it is. You look up and 25 items later.
Stacked.
Yeah. So, I mean that was it, and then just how it manifests itself in Baltimore and what it did and how I conducted myself, how I carried myself. Um, Man, it was. I spent a lot of energy. I spent a lot of energy trying to do things that really weren't even there.
Mm.
I was trying to prove something that I didn't realize I already proved it.
Mm. Jeez.
It's that same not enough story. Darren's talked about it with his core wound of, people telling him he wasn't black enough growing up, right? So that not enough story, and so much in today's world, it's the image of perfection that we're chasing, which isn't even a real thing. So we keep chasing something that's not real, and we're never going to be. It's just validating the not enough story even more. So until we can love ourselves and find it from within, instead of trying to seek something outside of ourselves and fill a void we can't fill ourselves. So it's like, get right on the inside. But a lot of that is the work, right, and the therapy and the outside help that we get. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I know you've talked about that being instrumental in your career and doing it before it was maybe a thing, and then also how that helped you in the transition out of football.
Man, without me not playing football, right? And when I played, I always told everybody, I said, man, when I'm done playing, I'm done. Right? I'm gonna go take a trip with y'all boys in training camp. I'm gonna send you a picture. And when them boys were in training camp, I sent all the guys that I was with, I sent them a picture. We were in Hawaii. I said, I told y'all, go have fun in practice. But what was interesting, I was away from the game. We were in Hawaii, but I was such like a grumpy person to be around. And what was interesting is so I went to Hawaii, and then my family, because my one of my oldest was in college, so he had to go back to college for training. My daughter was in high school, so she had to go back for volleyball. So Boston, who was there, me and him went to Tokyo. But yet before I went to Tokyo, Deuce, Steve Smith Jr., was just like his daddy. He said how he felt, and everybody laughed, and I took their laughter the wrong way, and kind of was like rude. And so I went to Tokyo for I think 7 or 8 days with my son, and then another buddy of mine and his son as like a father and son trip. And I had a great time in Tokyo, but at night I was literally having a conversation with my wife. We were on the pinnacle of divorce because I was such a unpleasantable person to be around.
What was the shift? What was the story you had to start telling yourself or stop telling yourself in order to start to come back from that and find this purpose beyond football?
I had to unpack a lot of baggage. That's what I had to do.
Yeah. It's like we don't even know how much is weighing us down. Like, a therapist I had before, like basically like had me do like a visualization of like my baggage and like just like literally like a stupid picked image, but it's like me walking around with all these suitcases and like, or like a barbell on my back trying to go around and do all these things and jump through hoops for people. And it's like, if you get that image of that, like that's exhausting when you look at it, but it's like it's an injury that you can't see though. And so it's like, we can't see it. So it's like, we're not aware that it's there. But in order for it took therapy, it took all kind of things. It took rehab for 30 days, like completely away from my world as I thought that I knew it and viewed it, for me to recognize all the things of the baggage that I was there. Like, for me, like I remember in 6th grade, I had a girlfriend and we were going to meet at the middle school club, and met at the middle school club, and she was with an 8th grade dude, and I was just like crushed. And from then on, I carried this mindset into relationships like, you know, I'm not going to feel the way that I felt before. If anything, you're going to feel that, not me. And it's just like, and I look at it, I'm like 20, I'm about to be 30 now, and it's like just recently in like the last year, I'm really starting to see strides in me letting go of that baggage. But it's been there, and I'm carrying it in every relationship I go into, like, and wondering why my relationships ain't working.
I had did intensive where me and my counselor went out of town, and we did a trauma egg. And then he sat 2 chairs in my hotel room, and I had to talk to my grandfather and grandmother who passed and tell them what I missed about them, and then talk to my mom and dad in these empty chairs of some things I need to unpack. And man, it was tough, right? And just a trauma egg is I basically go through my life story, and then I write down all the trauma, but I put in the egg, in this egg, and it was a big old poster board, and so I had to write in it. And man, that was crazy. It was you talking about 2 days? Like after doing all that, my counselor who was doing a lot of the work, he was like, "Hey, let's go grab something to eat." I'm like, "Eat? Like I'm not hungry. Like I have no appetite."
Straight up,
You know,
straight up.
like, and you know, but what was interesting is this is how I knew I was, you know, and he was like, "Wow." When we ate, I just kind of played in my food a little bit. But when we had to go back to our hotel rooms to kind of like decompress, I told him that I didn't want to go back to my room. And we walked around the hotel, walked around the grounds. We got in the car and we just kind of left. And because I wasn't sure how I was going to respond or what was going to happen, so I was afraid to actually go back in the room for a few hours by myself because I had never done anything like that before. And I never felt some of the anger, some of the hurt that I had. So it was definitely tough.
It's not easy work. It's dirty work, but it's definitely worth it. And I think, you know, hearing Darren's story, just what he just shared, and yours, it's a lot of it's about awareness, you know, to be able to let go. I always say let go or be dragged, right? But awareness is really what loosens the grip on what's weighing us down. We don't know if we don't know. And that's why having outside help, having therapists and coaches and people that are going to be able to ask those hard questions and be able to bring you to that place in a safe space, whether it's through a trauma egg or bringing you through a visualization in a bubble, whatever it is, so you can go there, because it's really just your mind going there. Your body's obviously in the present moment, but the only way we get through it is to go through it, and sometimes we have to walk through the fire. But when we walk through the fire, on the other side is liberation and freedom, and it's really freedom from ourselves, because these are the stories that we're telling ourselves. But you know, I think a lot of people run from this work, or they've just never been exposed or introduced to it. So again, these types of conversations, I believe, are what can really change the world. And for you two to have this conversation where, once again, people might put football players on this pedestal like they're the masculine of all men and tough as nails. And to me, this is a sign of true strength.
Some of us are tough as nails, you know, and then some of us are not. And you know what? It's okay. I think the biggest thing that I struggle with watching ball sometimes, be who you are, right? Like too many guys try to not to be, and then the guys who aren't try to say that, well, that guy is, you know, I mean, it's funny as, you know, now that I'm back home and just chilling and going to my kids' games, I get all the time, right? And I have to check myself. I was at a basketball game a couple of weeks ago, and some dude walked past me and said, "I thought he was bigger than that." I'm just kind of like, why? Like, why? And I just don't like. I don't get it. And it put me on alert a little bit, because I'm like, well, if he thinks I was bigger and he's walking by and saying that, what else, you know, where's this going to lead to? Because, man, I'm just a dad trying to watch his son at a basketball game.
Right.
Like I'm not interested in whatever you're trying to sell. I'm really just kind of just keeping things, I'm just chilling, bro. Let me live. Don't you, every single day that guy I gotta push down. And you don't want that guy to come back, right? I really don't.
Which is why I think even your morning routine is so sacred and so special, just to be able to, so that version of you, the best version of you, is operating throughout the rest of your day. Because what I hear is if someone made that comment to someone that hasn't done the work, they're going to take it personally. They're going to react. And if they're reacting from a place of hurt, like that comment hits your core wound of the not enough, the reactions aren't always pretty.
It almost did. It almost did, because he kept lingering around,
Yeah.
and they were looking at their phones like, is that him? Is that him? And then he goes to my wife, oh, I was just looking at his shoes. And I looked back at him, I was like,
I think that's like somebody trying to, when I look at people in today's day and I'm like, when they do things that are kind of like, why are they doing that? Or why do they feel like they need to do that? I feel like it's kind of like, we're talking about our insecurities. I feel like their insecurities are so loud that they feel like they have to do something to get them in a position of power. Like maybe him getting a reaction out of you gives him some power that he doesn't feel in his day-to-day life, because he doesn't really know who he is, or he's not willing to go through the uncomfortability of when you were riding around in that car with your inner wounds open, afraid to go back to your room, but you were going through it. He's not making that choice to go through it, so he's resorting to decisions on a lower level to like, let me get a reaction out of this guy so I can be in control.
Here's the dangerous part. Man, I would have lowered myself and gave everything he wanted.
Oof.
And that's the problem. Like, I would lower myself and be like, all right, I would tell him, man, if you think you can handle these waves in this ocean, put your boat in the ocean, homie. And I really have to stop, because that's what I'm trying to go through, and when I'm just internal for me is, man, I like I said, I get up at 7 o'clock, 6:30 in the morning. I'm about that life, right? And so when a guy is challenging me, like I had to working out when I first retired for a whole full year, because the first year I quit work, I retired, I worked out, and my body started to tingle, bro. When I say tingle, like the hairs on my arms, I had those goosebumps, and I had to stop working out because my body said, "No, this guy. Oh, we like this guy," and it started saying, "Oh, we going to play ball." And playing ball, Steve, is disrespectful, Steve. Disregard for who you are, Steve. Disregard for, like what I teach my kids, respect and family and all that stuff. And I'm doing all of that. I'm glad aside, because playing ball, Steve, is for me is I go in that locker room and I put on that uniform. I come out, you're on my team as an offense, I ride with you. But if you are a defender on the same team, I don't ride with you. And then when we play on Sunday, man, that's you've taken off the governor of, man, I can let loose. There's times I'm ashamed, but now I kind of laugh about it. Man, there's times where I want a dude to hit me and say, I'm not scared of you. The next play, man, it'd be a curl or run a route, and I would box. I would hit a dude in his underneath his chin strap. 3 or 4 hits under his chin strap, 8 yards into the route, like boop, 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 and run my route. And like, that's kind of terrible, dog. Like, I was a dirtbag.
I know, but I feel like playing ball, Steve, served a purpose in your life for the time that you were in there. Like you had to be him, and that was you doing the best that you could with what you had. And, I think about meditation for me. It's like the way somebody presented it to me was, it's not about just being like that monk, like perfectly still for like 8 hours, but it's like the repetition of noticing yourself going to a place and just being aware of you going to that place and bringing yourself back. So it's like So like, it's like, how do you struggle with like the playing ball Steve coming back? Because like I see it as you can honor and respect that playing ball Steve by like when you want to go there, it's just like recognizing yourself and be like, all right, bro, just like let's just come back. Like that's all that meditation
No,
is
I
to
can't.
me.
I
Yeah, you
can't.
know.
That man, that Steve. That Steve has come out once or twice. I can't say why, because it's a little sensitive subject. With I would just say being a dad. How about that? Being the dad of a daughter. And so that Steve came out. That LA Steve came out. LA Steve with a book bag Steve, meeting somebody Steve came out. And that wasn't right.
Do you have like mantras, affirmations, anchors, pattern interrupts, things that you use today to bring you back to your body when things like that happen? Like what are some of your practices, in the
Well,
moment practices?
in that moment, I was all the way gone.
That's real.
that Steve was, ooh, wait. Um, right now, um, TV has allowed me to some degree, it's allowed me to really focus on, a lot of my sit downs. People are surprised at I'm very intentional. I'm very well researched. Um, and the other part of me comes out the inquisitive Steve, the young Steve of like, why? Like, what does that mean to you? Why is your favorite color red? Or why is your favorite color um, teal blue? So those things. So for me, is I'm always reading. I really enjoy reading informational books. I'm not a fictional book reader. I like information. So I love reading that, growing. Um, I'm just an inquisitive overthinker, process, and then I'm a note taker. All right, so I love taking notes about anything, right? And so that's what really keeps me going and asking a lot of questions, um, and I'm a people reader too. So that's the other bad part. Like I can read a room, and then based on reading a room, I may say something or not say something to affirm, to confirm what my thoughts are about what's going on. So a lot of times when I ask a question, I already know the answer. I'm just seeing how you reply to dictate, are you being your authentic self, or are you selling me a bill of goods? And then if you're selling me a bill of goods, then I don't fool with you at all. Because now I know that I can't trust you. I can't trust you with a ham and cheese sandwich. So I'm not gonna trust you with anything. So I can walk past you. If I don't trust you, I can walk past you, look at you, look you dead in your eye. You say good morning. I say, nah, I'm good, bro. Because I'm gonna let you know now. It's not that I dislike you. I just know who you are.
It's fascinating. Do you feel like, well, what would you say to someone? This is kind of a two-part question. You can answer it two different ways. First, to the athlete, the athlete that it's about to be a wrap for them, whether it's their college career is over, their high school career is over, their pro career is over. What advice would you give to that person that transition is about to happen, whether they know it or not?
Uh, here's where I go. The truth of the lie. What do you want? The truth of the lie.
I want the truth.
Paint both
A
of
lot
them.
of
Paint
people
both
say,
of them.
Yeah.
Paint both of them for us.
okay, the truth is the honest, unfiltered truth. If your career is about to be over and you just realize that you screwed, bro, sorry. That's the unedited. That's just reality, right? If you playing sports, you already know where you're at. You know why. I always ask every athlete, do you know your weakness? If you don't know your weakness, that's your problem. Because your opponent knows. There's a scouting report out on you. Why don't you go read it? The lie would be, man, just keep trying, and maybe you'll latch on to a team. That's the lie.
The truth hurts. I mean, in any situation where the truth was presented to me in my life, it hurt. But
Yeah.
on the other side of that, that's like you'll appreciate that the truth was brought to you.
The reason I say the truth is in ball players is because in any sport there's an evaluation, and there's always been an evaluation. A guy gets cut, or a guy is benched, or a guy doesn't. He knows that. How many times we sat in meetings and you were checked out and you didn't want to be at practice, you didn't take notes, and then you get out on the field and for some miraculous reason you're discouraged because you thought you were just going to figure it out, and you applied nothing to help yourself on the field.
Yeah, that's self-awareness.
Right? Like there's times me and you on the field, and I used to say, dog, what are you doing? He'd be like, what? I'm like, bro, you out here moping, and you set yourself up 7 hours ago. 7 hours before we stepped on this field, you put yourself behind the 8 ball, right? Obviously by doing, the stuff you were doing. But then in meetings, a book full of nothing. This boy out here doodling, trying to, he writing down his raps, but here to play football. And then upset that football wasn't going well.
Sounds like there needs to
And
be.
so that's what you say?
No, I was about to say, it sounds like there needs to be, I mean, with a lot of people in the world today, like the elimination of like this spirit of entitlement. Like somehow if I just show up, then somehow things are going to be presented to me, or somehow I earned them, as opposed to, we don't really know how things are going to play out, how God has this thing going for us. We present ourselves in the best way we can with our preparation, our effort, and our attitude, and then things happen, and we have to be tough enough to live with the results. But there's so many people in the world with that spirit of entitlement, thinking they can show up, like, just because I'm here and I put my time in, like, that I should get these things.
But here's a question. Did you put your time in?
Talking to me?
Yeah.
Or are you saying it hypothetically?
No, that was a real question.
At the time when my career wasn't going the way that I wanted to, I was not putting the time in.
I appreciate your honesty. But the old Darren that I saw in the locker room, bro, you were swearing up and down you was putting in that time, dog.
Yep. Zero self-awareness.
And you see what I'm saying? That
Yep.
Like, if you're asking me to talk to a person, prepare a person for their career, and give them some advice. Like, I give it to you like this: as in any profession, like who goes on a family trip with no bump navigation, just a destination? Who goes on a family trip? No money, no gas, no driver's license, no cash, no debit card, no nothing. You just gonna get in the car and go. Go where? Like that's not realistic. And so, like, when I'm talking to these young guys, I used to talk to young guys, and they say, "Man, every guy, when you get the old head, everybody, man, I'm gonna follow you. I'm gonna do everything you do, guarantee you." And Darren knows, man. We had guys every year. He was one of them every year. I'm like, all right, I'll lead you. Man, them dudes last 3-4 days, because I used to get up every day and go. I would announce when I come into the locker room, I'm not playing with y'all today. Somebody going to get cut covering me. So be prepared. Your mama, your daddy, your family, get ready to pack your bags, because Agent 89 is going to tear y'all a new one. Nobody can cover me today. Wink, defense coordinator, and Dean Pease, hey, I'm letting you know. Nobody can play with me today.
With an emphasis on today, because it's like you were invested in the process of today and not worried about the result of when I'm getting there. But it's like, if I'm in today, tomorrow is going to be a today as well. If I keep showing up like this today, then everything is going to fall the way that it should. But if I'm worried about the result, then I'm not taking care of the process.
Yes. And then the next day, I come in. I would say, I'll let y'all boys live today, but don't bother me. I do my work today, but I'm not going to, and then something in practice where I'll be taking a day off, and then all of a sudden, I put that red mouthpiece, bring it out of my sock, right? Remember was you there? You weren't there yet, huh? My first training camp in Baltimore with Shockey Brown.
No, that was a year before me.
Yeah, but just like going against guys, I would tell guys, man, I'll kill your career today, dog. Don't do it.
I remember being in practices. I remember like one of the first OTAs. I think it might have been like Asa Jackson or somebody like tried to pop it off with you, and then you just like went into a different place. And I was like amazed by that confidence. I didn't know that a person could have that level of confidence or a spirit or belief in themselves, because I didn't really believe in myself that much at the time. Like, what would you say to somebody that really has no idea of what confidence is or how to build it? How do you think they should start in that journey? Does it start with that self-awareness?
Yeah, it starts with that self-awareness, but I think it believes my preparation, my confidence comes in my, what I do every day, right? So I'm averaging about 1.5 miles each day when I run, and I bike in 20, 30 minutes between 6 to 8 miles, right? And there's some days where I can tell the way my body feels that I'm not going to be able to get almost 2 miles a day. So I have to be okay with that. And during that process, I may push myself, and my body will say, boy, I told you to slow down. And so I slow down. But what's crazy is when I slow down and listen to my body, my pace actually gets better. It's when I try too hard to run at a pace that is unsustainable. So I know my own threshold. So when that pace I'm talking about is I'm trying to hit an 8:54 mile run, when I calm down and just run my pace and allow the surface, and I'm running outside, allow the surface to dictate the hills, 9:54, 9:15, 9:30 mile run.
Donnie, I hear a lot of life lessons just in that picture that he just painted, just from people trying to run at a pace that they can't sustain, or trying to move at a pace that somebody else may be moving, or not their own pace that they can create in their own life for them to be able to get to where they need to be to at the perfect time that they need to get there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Let me tell you how I found that out. So my dumb self, I try to run with some folks that don't look like me, right? They ain't no football players, more they gazelles.
They 120
right?
too.
Man, after Thanksgiving, they 120. Right? And man, I'm running, and we are 10 minutes into the run, and I'm going, and I'm running like, bro, I'm in good shape. I'm running, dog.
Right.
I think I ran 450 miles last year. Right? And so I'm running, and I'm running with these dudes, and I'm like, what? Why am I so tired? So we run the first mile, and they say, hey, Steve, you want to stop? And so I'm kind of like, I want to stop. Let's turn around, but let me get a little, let me stretch out. My hamstring's tight. So I looked at my monitor, bro. 8:15 minute mile. I was way beyond what I'm used to. I was so uncomfortable. When I say uncomfortable, when you're uncomfortable, bro, I can feel my sock flipped over, and that was causing my calf to get tight. I can feel my tights underneath. I had a little roll in my right leg thigh, and that was like restricting. Like my shirt was, I was just feeling everything. I didn't like the wind blowing in my ear. I always wear a hat. My hat was uncomfortable. Like my body was saying, if you don't know your role, boy, you're gonna get a flat tire. And I felt my whole body uncomfortable because I was trying to do something that was out of the scope of my line of work. I was outside, as you know, as they say, I was outside of my bank account, my emotional bank account, and God has such a great sense of humor. What got me to be able to slow down was I was running and it was, a public place. And so a dog came in and jumped on me. So it stopped. So everybody got to stop. It was like, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm okay. And boy, I was stealing all oxygen out the air. Right. So I end up running the fastest time I ever ran. And I was hurting for 3.5 days. Hamstring, quad, hip, groin, uh, uh, you know, plantar fasciitis kicked in. I mean, everything in my body was hurting because I tried to keep up with the Joneses instead of being okay and comfortable where I was. And ever since then, I listened to my body, right?
Every conversation we have, I think, comes back to the 4 agreements, which 2 of them I heard. One of them was be impeccable with your word, which you didn't say specifically, but I think from a preparation standpoint, keeping the promises we make to ourselves, that's where our confidence comes. Like the ones that are following through on the things they say they're going to do every single day. You become unshakable, and then the noise, the inner critic, the outside noise, it doesn't even faze us. And then the always do your best, the agreement number 4. Today might look a little different than tomorrow. 50% might be your best today, but the power of awareness allows us to really do an honest self-assessment on where we're at today. And it's like power versus force. Like I teach yoga and I see it all the time. Like, let the practice meet you where you're at. You don't need to do what the person next to you is doing. Your body's completely different than their body. To practice with purpose and practice with intention means to let the practice meet you where you're at today. And making a decision today that you think is going to help you, but that hurts you tomorrow is a terrible decision. So especially when we're trying to play the long game and take care of our bodies and take care of our minds. And, if you can't move your body, my mind starts to get really messy. So
Really, yeah. I would tell you one thing that you're missing that I realize is be careful of the negotiations you've had with yourself. You've negotiated things unconsciously that you didn't even realize you did. You've negotiated, well, if I won't do this, but I'll do this, or you start to do little things and negotiate to all of a sudden you find yourself, as they say, in a pickle.
Compromised.
Yeah, it's almost like the self-sabotage voice creeps in there for that negotiation piece.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a master of self-sabotage. But Steve, it's proven. It's in the record books. But
you're aware of it today.
Yeah,
awareness is that first step.
Absolutely. But Steve, I want to ask you. Do you, with all the things that you've been through in your life and all the, the roller coaster of what life has been, do you feel like you're closer to knowing like what your purpose is and why you are here, why you were sent here to be on this earth?
Nah, I mean, some people may say that. I believe that I'm here to serve, right?
Amen.
And I think I believe that God gives us these things, and in whatever He gives us, that we have to cherish it and utilize it in a way and conduct ourselves and really handle it with care. Because then the reason I say that is because, man, He doesn't give you all of something just for you to keep it and benefit you, because He may give you something like I feel like He may give you something at the age of 15 or 22 that may be used to help someone or even help yourself to help someone else at 42.
I feel like I see a man more in his purpose today. Damn, you were fun to watch on the field, but just to see what you're doing now and how just your honesty and vulnerability and how much you're doing in your community back in North Carolina, but just how you have turned your wounds into sacred wounds, right? And in doing that, when we share our story, we not only liberate ourselves, but we liberate other people. There's people that are going to be listening to this podcast that are going to hear your story that are going to be so inspired, and it'll bankrupt their story that I'm alone, nobody understands, or there's this shame because this thing happened to me. Whoa, it happened to him too. And once we start to see ourselves in other people, especially people that maybe we've put on a pedestal, man, there's a whole lot of, again, it just like bankrupts that story of there are people that have been through this. You're not alone.
No, you're not. You're not. I mean, I was talking to my wife the other day, and I was just emotionally tired. Been processing some other things, and I was emotionally tired, and I felt alone because what I was dealing with required me. So I was alone because what I was dealing with it was heavy, emotionally heavy. And so what I tried to do in reflection of that is be transparent with her, right? Not allow silence to separate me from the outside world, because that solitude and isolation is exactly where the devil goes to work, where the internal dialogue becomes so negative, right? You can isolate yourself and mess around and run the best 40 ever known to mankind at the combine and destroy your life. You can have so much negativity. You can run a 4.11 in the 40 with so much negativity, which takes you down the rabbit hole, and then that goes, that goes to uh, whatever you are medicating with.
I feel like no type of healing happens in isolation. That's a technique of mine that I still have to combat, because I think I don't want to be a burden on somebody else, or that
Yeah.
for somehow I've shown people that I'm, in my mind I can think that I've done something superhuman, and I don't want people to see me fall down again because I fell down enough in their face, and it's like I don't want them to see that anymore. But it's like it takes a village, it takes community to hold us up, no matter how strong we are, no matter how many feats of strength we can show to the world. We need people around us. And I still have that thought in today, where it's like if I do something that I didn't necessarily like that I did, I find myself kind of weaseling off into my little corner, into my little cave, and it's like I can't do that.
Yeah. Well, what we're doing is people don't like to say it, right? But we're cheating something. We're always cheating something, whether we're cheating our addictions, or we're cheating our family, or we're cheating a time we could be studying versus playing video games, time we could be preparing for something else, but we're deciding to take a nap. Like, we're always cheating something. That I really believe our biggest issue is we don't want to really be known for what we're really doing. Like, sometimes we like to mask the truth. Like, we're all selfish, right? I've been married. I'm married to my wife. I've been married for 22 years. The truth of the matter is that, why am I married? Because I don't want to be alone. I don't want to die alone. That's the truth. You don't get married to spend money. You get married because you want to spend the rest of your life with someone. You don't want to be alone. And to be honest, that's selfish. It's a different kind of selfish, but it's the truth.
Yeah, it's still in us all to a certain capacity. In some ways it may serve us, in a lot of ways it doesn't, but it's more so about, like, there's no way we're going to get to a place where that self-centeredness is completely eradicated. It's more so about, like, can I move into that direction every single day of that
Yeah.
selflessness, and moving in that direction, taking that next foot in front of the other. It's not going to be a perfect ending or a perfect picture where it's like everything I do in my day is just unselfish, but it's about, how can I
Yeah,
move in that direction?
yeah. Like, you got to be selfish. Like, I hate to say it. Like, if you got to use a bathroom, you need to be selfish to go use a bathroom, because the person next to you does not want to be next to someone who's relieved themselves and sitting in it. And, I mean, that's truth.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, just this has been amazing, bro. Like, this has been way better than I even imagined. And it's like, we didn't even, like, you know what I'm saying? We have notes, and it's like, you know, I was going to be like, yo, take me through your football career. But it's like, this has been amazing because it's like, football didn't lead anything that was going on here today. It may have filtered its way in at some points, but I'm appreciative of the fact that, you know, I could just, you know, push this notebook to the side, and we just talking as men that know each other and appreciate each other. So I want to
Man,
ask. Go ahead.
I'll say this, man, and then I gotta go because I actually I gotta work. And I'd say this, and I want to tell you because I want to give you an unqualified and qualified compliment. Man, it's so nice, and it's so nice to see the man that you become. It's cool, man. It's cool to see who you are, what you've been through, because a lot of people would have quit, and you didn't quit. There's so many people who have comments, and the way you have conducted yourself, you have required an example, and you are that example. There's two things that goes on with time. The bad news, time flies. The good news, you get to be the pilot. And it's just cool to watch you be that way, man. So I just wanted to tell you, I'm not proud of you to say that I have something, but I'm proud to know you. I know Darren Waller, the football player. I know Darren Waller, the man.
I appreciate you, man. I still remember when I was suspended from the league. You know, I didn't really have communication with any former teammates like that or any coaches that were, you know, from the Ravens or anything like that. But I was in Atlanta back home, you know, and Steve was there for a Thursday night game. The Saints was playing the Falcons in Atlanta, and he reached out to me to, you know, go to dinner. And he was just, you know, wanted to talk to me and was checking up on me and was, you know, that was one of the only times where I felt like, you know, somebody from, you know, anybody I met from the game of football was there for me in that moment in time where, you know, I didn't even really have something that could benefit them at the time. And but you showing up and wanting to do that with me and sit down with me in that time, you know, that made me feel seen. It made me feel, you know, acknowledged. And it, like you saying that right now took me back to that place. And I'm just reflecting, man, it's just like a lot of emotions swirling up in me, man. So thank you, bro. I appreciate you.
Well, I appreciate it and thank you. But you are helping me because when I reached out, I was like, all right, I'm going to Atlanta. What do I usually do? I sit in my hotel, prepare, right? And I was like, man, who do I know in Atlanta that I can sit and break bread with? And all the guys that are in my room, in my receiver's room, I always tell them, right? My number stayed the same for almost 10 plus years. I always tell you, if I give you my number, you can always hit me up. There's some guys, I look a dude straight in his eye. Nah, I'm not going to call you. You're not going to call me. So I used to be straightforward. And, you know, we know some of those guys in that locker room who it was. And I always let people know where I sat. And I wish I didn't as bluntly and unfiltered. But, you know, what's cool is Kamar was in town a couple of months ago, Darren, and he hit me up. I said, all right, let's do it. We had lunch. We had dinner. Picked him up. We had dinner, man. So that's one thing about me is, man, if I say you one of my guys and you say I'm one of your guys, man, you can call me up. You know, I try to be exactly what somebody say, man. He's that guy I love to have in a dark alley. And the reason I'm like that is because I know when I was younger, when I was going down those dark alleys, and I'm gonna be honest, I didn't have no Stephon Smith to call on. So I try to be that guy.
I appreciate you showing up for people and to the world in the way that you do, in the way that you faced your pain and all the things that you could have continued to carry around with you, but you let them go, not only for the people in your life, but most importantly for yourself, man. So thank you. Appreciate you for being here, making the time, man. Don't want to hold you up any longer, but this has been special, man.
Hey, Donnie, you got a good one, man. You got a good one.
Nah, Donnie a real one, man. Donnie as real as it gets.
I know he is. I can tell, but here's the difference. You know, it's hard to have a co-host who's willing to listen. And I'm not saying in podcasts. I'm just talking about in life, right? You know, you need people that can affirm you, ask questions, and help you achieve. And Donnie seems like that guy that affirms, but he's one that seems like he asks the questions. And, you know, accountability.
Yep.
You know?
I'm learning that, man. As a teacher, you want to teach, but as a coach, the best coaches are the best listeners, right? And I think you mentioned it, just inviting in curiosity. The best coaches and the best listeners are the ones that are genuinely curious and they're present in those conversations. So it's been part of my work. So I appreciate that compliment. And it's been easy to listen, especially to you two going back and forth with just the connection and the loyalty and the really some unconditional love and what I see as like true men in their purpose. It's a beautiful thing. So it's been easy to sit back and enjoy the show.
Well, I appreciate it. Now I'm about to go on TV and shred somebody.
Go do what you do, man. Love you,
brother.
Bro. Hey, you get to play with one of those. You get to play. I love playing. Renfro is my guy.
Yeah, buddy. That guy is different.
I like. Listen, when I saw him play at Clemson, I see him when he got drafted. Man, Renfro is going to play in the league for like 15 years. Yep. He's going to come back to South Carolina. He's going to own a lawn care business,
yep.
and nobody's going to ever know he's a damn quadrillionaire.
Right. Exactly. Shout out to Renfro.
Yeah, I like that kid, man. So you're doing a hell of a job, bro.
Appreciate it, man.
Appreciate
you making the time, bro. It's been amazing.
Hey, for you, anytime. You know that.
My man, thank you.
All right,
God bless me.